I guess it's not quite as long with only the first round tonight, so this will get you out of here a little earlier. Obviously, really excited to be in a position to improve our front court in the way that we did. I think the defensive versatility of Yves is something we were really excited about. He's not just a rim protector. He has the ability to be a multiple coverage big. He's a player that we're really excited about in terms of upside, but also in terms of character. The human being he is, his intelligence as a human being, his instincts and the speed at which he picks up new information is really exciting. He's somebody that projected very, very well for us. Eyes, ears, and numbers is what you like to try to cover when you do these types of things, and he checks all three boxes for us in many ways. There'll be some things out there that'll tell you that the numbers don't check out, and that's okay. We're comfortable with that. I think we're a group that really understands the human part of this a little bit relative to Yves, and we're just genuinely excited about it.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on what Griff said. When we were in the identifying stages of our draft process in October, I went to Baylor, and Yves really, really stood out. There wasn't a whole lot of information about him at the time. He played in the Nike Hoop Summit, and I wouldn't say he's just a guy, but he showed a ton of potential, and he really, really progressed by the time I saw him again in October. And the first thing I came back and I told Griff, I was like, this kid is going to be a first-round pick, and we need to make sure that we keep our eyes on him. And he just kept getting better and better throughout the year. Like Griff said, his defensive versatility, his ability to play in multiple coverages. You see that a lot right now in the NBA. And you saw teams that are playing late into the playoffs, especially with Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, and Al Horford. Those guys can play up at the point of the screen, stop the ball, and get back. And that is huge. It's huge for how Willie wants to play as well. And then this kid is definitely developmental. Hopefully his learning curve is short. He got to Baylor, and everybody thought he was going to redshirt. He actually thought he was going to redshirt. And that just goes to the point of what Griff said. He picks up things really, really quickly. And so with his intelligence and his just raw natural ability, it's exciting, and we're happy he fell to 21.
And obviously he has the size and the traits that you mentioned, being excited about his upside. What have you seen that kind of makes you feel pretty good about where he can be a couple of years from now?
Well, some of what Bryson just said, the speed with which he picks things up are incredible. But when you look at an athlete with his size and the way he tested for us here, the things he's capable of physically are very rare. And we've sat up here and said that before about players, and it's true. There are a lot of times you draft on tools. What's exciting about Yves is we feel like the likelihood he reaches his ceiling is better than a lot of those people because of what he's shown already for his propensity to get better quickly. But the things that he did in our building here physically and athletically, we've never had a player his size do anything even remotely like. So it's exciting for us.
And just what was his contact like with him in the pre-draft process and all that?
Well, that's a good question, actually. We were really fortunate to get him to come in. This was a strange year in the draft, and we've talked to a lot of you about this. This was a draft that we thought was much deeper than it was top-heavy, and I think you've seen that play out tonight. There were some players that were expecting to go much higher that are still on the board. This was a different draft in its depth, and so it was a struggle for Bryson and his group to even get him to come in. And when he did, it was a special meeting for us and for him. And I know he and his family are excited about our situation. But it was a blessing to get him to come in at all.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
First day, sorry about that.
No.
You've been kind of unapologetic about, you mentioned his character, about having people in the building and not wavering from that. How important was that, and how much did that weigh into this pick of this player?
Oh, immeasurably. When you've got his work rate and his human character and his intelligence, there's something on the end for you that's going to be really special, and that's what we want in that building. We've talked about it a lot. We've got to have people that are committed to what we're doing here, and Yves is committed, and that's meaningful to us.
You guys had a very successful season last season. You're hoping to build upon that playoff aspirations. Do you feel like he can fit in a playoff style rotation out the gate, or is it are you projecting a longer term approach there?
I think it's a little bit of both. Physically, he has the tools to play in that setting. Those games we played, he belongs in physically. What's going to take him some time is just the overall speed of the game. If you look at where he was and how long he's been playing the game, he's made an incredibly meteoric rise. I don't think you go from prolific prep to thinking you're redshirting at Baylor to playing in the playoffs in the NBA very often. So it'd be silly to say, oh yeah, he's going to do that. But he has the physical tools that play in those games.
Bryson, if I could ask you a question. I know you've been here a long time, you've seen a lot of different things. Now that you are the general manager, this is technically your first pick. Does it make it any more special? This is your first pick as the general manager?
No, it doesn't. I mean, it's it's just a title. I'm just fortunate. This is an unbelievable opportunity, and everybody that works here, they play a part in it. You know what I mean? Every draft that I've been a part of is extremely special. And I don't care if I was the intern or if I sit right now in front of you as a general manager. Working in the NBA is just it's a blessing, So I'm trying not to get emotional, but it's a dream come true just to be up here. So thank you. Yeah.
Bryson, you've been here a long time. I mean, where are the Pelicans now compared to previous iterations you've seen in your time here?
Moving in the right direction. We just keep getting better and better every year. Griff has done a really good job just giving us direction as an organization, and at the same time letting us do our jobs. You know what I mean? That's super helpful, and it's fun to be around and fun to be a part of. And we got a really, really good group, and so just excited. We're coming off a 49-win season. That hasn't, that doesn't happen often, here in New Orleans, and hasn't happened much, in my tenure, but we're moving in the right direction. So it's a lot to be excited about.
Hey, Bryson, have you had a chance to just kind of reflect on this journey yet? I mean, have you met it out?
I a little bit. I think after Summer League, I will. There hasn't been a ton of downtime, we've had a lot of turnover. In the building, with Trajan obviously leaving, and that was a, kind of a big blow. But I think after Summer League, I'll be able to sit down and really just kind of think back to exactly, what I'm doing. You know what I mean? But just very thankful and grateful.
We talked a lot the last 5 years about finding the right type of center to put next to Z, and you guys are going through a few different guys trying to find that. What do you see in Yves that makes you say he can be a guy who can be successful next to Z?
It's his ability to really get out of the way as well. He has such a good feel for finding space. He's able to set screens and play in the dunker. A lot like, a Derek Lively type. That I think his feel for the game is very advanced, and somebody like that next to Z can also is going to unlock him. He also has good touch. I don't want to sit here and say that he's going to be some pick and pop big, but when he came into our gym, his shot mechanics are they're there, and I think with reps and over time as he continues to develop, I can see some. His ability to grow as a 3-point shooter, in this league as well. So he's got so much potential, as a player, and so we're just excited that, like I said, he fell to 21 and then he's with us.
You don't get a chance to address every single need all at once in one night, but a lot of time the development of big, especially like he is tied to guard play and creation. What are your guys' like thoughts philosophically on perhaps adding some of that to this roster this offseason?
Well, I think in general terms, we've talked about needing to get better, and I think philosophically, we're going to be aggressive. And we didn't come into this off-season believing the way we were going to get better in the front court was entirely around Yves, and I don't think we came into this believing in the offseason that the way we were going to get better was to be on the sidelines. I think we're going to be fairly aggressive. And I think we're going to continue to do that throughout the offseason. You know, it's interesting, every time these things happen, and we've talked about this a lot, everybody thinks things have to be done by the draft or they have to be done by July 6th. Your roster is not set until training camp starts, and even then it's not. So I think we're going to continue to look throughout all of that for opportunity and to try to cash in on the right people at the right time. And so Yves is just one step in that.
Is there any update you can give just about like Brandon, potential extension or anything else right now?
No, I wouldn't get into that now.
Do you communicate, given, obviously, I know the NBA offseason is a crazy landscape, and you've talked about that before with rumors flying. Do you have communication?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
very much. Brandon wants to stay here, and he believes in what we're building, and that's meaningful to us. It's meaningful to him. I think it's meaningful to his agent. And at the same time, there is a financial reality that we all deal with. So I think we're excited about Brandon. We know he's excited about us, and usually those things yield good results one way or the other.
And Bryson, I'm talking about giving this opportunity. What are some of the things you saw in him that made you comfortable, putting him in the position to move up to the general manager spot?
Well, obviously he doesn't draft very well. I think when you look at the history of what's happened here, even before I got to this organization, Bryson was somebody that everybody believed has a chance to be special. Not just in the business, but as a human being, he's a really rare person. And I think you saw from his earlier answers, he's just about the work. He's about winning, and he's not about himself. And that's something that's really meaningful to us on and off the court. And Bryson really exemplifies everything that we want to be about from a character standpoint, from a work ethic standpoint. His family, his wife Tiff and their kids, like, they're the kind of people we want this thing to be about. And we want to keep attracting people like him. And so the way you do that is you put people like this in leadership positions and you let that energy speak for itself. So we're really excited that he was willing to do it.
You mentioned the ability to have versatile defensive schemes late in the playoffs, and that was a big thing this postseason. Were there any other takeaways you guys had, just maybe on the offensive side of things, that may help shape your roster moving forward?
Paint pressure. When Zion went down, that really affected our offense. And so I think if you can add more playmaking, more paint pressure, and a rim running, diving big, it does put pressure on the rim. It doesn't necessarily have to be the ball handler, but you can create paint touches by middle ball screens, angle pick and rolls, and having your big put pressure on the paint, and now triggers are created, so now it frees up the weak side. And so I think that's one of the takeaways that we hope to address in this offseason. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about maybe I just referenced the landscape of the NBA. You talked about being a 49-win team and you were in the play-in. Do you ever remember a time when it was this hyper-aggressive of, everybody trying to make moves to enhance their positioning during your tenure in the league?
Well, there's a couple things going on. It's sort of happening on multiple levels, right? So there's people that are trying to be uber aggressive to win right now by trading all of their draft picks. There's also people dealing with the apron for the first time that have never had to deal with that before. So you've got teams that are able to be uber aggressive because their teams are very good and they're not at the apron. So they've been sustainable enough to get to this point and they can cash in. When the rules changed, nobody really knew what that was going to be. So some of the rules have changed in such a way that there's a randomness to this and your ability to really push your chips in all at one time. And that's leveled the playing field a little bit in an odd sort of way. But I mean, historically, there's never been 10 teams, 10 games over 500 in any conference. And that's the West we're in right now. And it's only getting better. There were teams that were very aggressive already this offseason that were theoretically behind us. And that's why I say we need to be aggressive. I think it's really a positive thing for our organization that we've won more games 3 years in a row, that we've built what we've built in terms of players wanting to stay here. That's tremendous. That's not why we're doing this. We're doing this to win, and we're doing it to win at the highest level. And you're not going to do that by not being aggressive, and that should be really evident now. What New York did in the trade that they made, that's an all-in move. And when you get to a point where you've got a level of confidence that you're a home court playoff team, you can do that. In the Western Conference, it's really hard to have that level of confidence. And so it's an interesting sort of push and pull that you have to deal with in the West. But it's definitely, Fletcher, to your question, it's the first time I've seen a league like this.
David, do you feel like you guys have to first get there, get to that top four, host maybe a playoff series or get to the second round before you know, maybe now I should think about pushing all my chips in like New York?
I think it'd make it easier. It doesn't mean you wait, because you got to get there first. And in the West, you may not get there without being aggressive. So I think we're really, really blessed. We have ownership and Mrs. Benson that lets us do our job. And they don't put constraints on us financially in a way that would make it impossible to succeed. At the same time, we can't be wrong. We're not going to be an apron team. So when we go in, we better be right, because we don't get to do it twice, 3 times, 4 times like some teams do. You can either hoard all the talent and never have to make a decision and just pay your way past it, or you can be right. And thankfully, because of Bryson and his team, we've been right the vast majority of the time draft-wise. We've struck on really high variance guys that are producing far beyond their contract. That's because of the work his group does. And that's put us in a position where we may need to guess that this is our time and push some chips in. So we need to your point, we need to get to that point before we can even try to figure out if we're right or not.
We just look to get into the second round tomorrow or anything like that, any feel on that?
Yeah, we could. I think it's possible. You know, again, I mentioned the draft was deeper than it was top-heavy, and people saw this as kind of a flat draft. There are several people still on the board we're intrigued by, so it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility we do that.
Can I ask you, Bryson, just a personal question?
Sure.
I mean, this is a pretty transient business. You look at people's bios, and they're like a year here, 2 years
I know.
there. You've been 15 years here, and you're here
Yeah.
for the foreseeable future. Do you understand the uniqueness of that you've made a career, for all practical purposes, from the bottom to the top in one place?
Yeah, absolutely. I think about that quite a bit, and just blessed and fortunate. The 15 years, honestly, it feels like I've been here for like 3. You know, like time has gone by so quickly. I remember pulling into the Alario Center like it was just yesterday, and now, you know, here I am. You know, I know it's not normal for someone to be in the same organization for 15 years, but it just goes to show just the type of organization that I get a chance to work for, and that's why I just keep going back to the word blessed. I'm blessed and thankful to be working here and working for this organization. It really is it's a dream. Yeah.
Hey, Griffin, let's get you kind of appreciate his journey having started as an intern yourself.
Yeah, and I was with Phoenix for 17 years, right? So a lot of his journey spoke to me when I got here. Former video guys stick together as much as we can. And despite the fact that I was doing it back when it was deck to deck, I still thought of myself as a video guy. So his situation very much spoke to me from the day I got here. And we've had a really close relationship, I think, almost from the day I started.
Absolutely.
And Yeah, it definitely was, there was a connection there in terms of our backgrounds and the way we got here. He was actually a really, really good basketball player and played collegiately, and when I first got here, played quite a bit and could still be used in practice and those types of things. That was very much not my story. But beyond that, I saw a lot of similarities in the way that he came up.
Griff, are you fully staffed in the front office? Do you anticipate any more hires there?
I think we'll probably make a couple additions, front office. Obviously, there have been some turnover in our coaching area as well. I know Coach Green is really, really excited about Yves. I know that staff is excited about Yves. And I expect that we're going to continue to add people to the group that will help him develop and help all of our young guys. I think when we're at the point we're at now, our player development's got to really take the next jump. And so I know Coach is excited about that. So I think we'll put some focus on that in the next hires as well.
Just to your point about player development, and kind of touch on the question I asked earlier, do you anticipate being able to like commit like 10, 12, 15 minutes or so to developing Yves like across the season?
You know, it's interesting. I think I said this before. One of the benefits that Oklahoma City had was that they were developing their young players in an atmosphere where winning didn't matter. And they were judging themselves by the quality of their reps. They were judging themselves by the work, not the results. I would really like to think that we're at a point now as a team where we can judge the development of our players by the work. And I don't care what it looks like. I want the work rate to be really high. And I think we're in agreement that the Birmingham squadron is a good opportunity for people to develop. It doesn't matter if they're playing minutes if the quality of the reps aren't really, really good and the attention to detail isn't really, really good. And the work that they put in here when they're playing what we call the stay fit games, those only matter if the quality of the reps are really, really good. So if we can put a young player into a situation in a game where they can get quality reps, they have an opportunity to really take off. And I think Coach Green and his staff, if you look at the development of Herb Jones, of Jose Alvarado, of Trey Murphy, they've done a really good job of picking and choosing the spots they put these guys in. And we're going to continue to lean into that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.